Today I want to talk about a theory called TriFunctionality, and I want to see how that theory is applied to Celtic society, and also I want to see, well, there's been a little bit of a problem that I've been working on in regards to the Wheel of the Year, and I want to see if this theory of trifunctionality can actually help resolve that. So, Georges Dumézil was a French linguist and scholar who was a professor at a number of renowned universities. And it was during his research on German religious systems that he came across a discovery. He found a number of similarities between the Germanic system and some of the other systems he'd been studying. And this became the basis for his hypothesis of trifunctionality. So in simple terms, trifunctionality identifies a pattern of threes in commonly rooted cultures. And in this case, I mean cultures derived from Proto Indo European ancestry. And those cultures are recognized by being linguistically related together via a root culture. And in this case, it was the Proto Indo European culture. And some of those cultures obviously included the Celts, the Germanic tribes, the Greeks, the Romans, Iranians, and a whole host of others that are linguistically related to the same common root culture. Now what George says is that these cultures share a commonality, a sociological commonality, insofar as it appears that most of these cultures that have derived from the Proto-Indo-European culture were segregated into three partitions. And the first partition was that of the kings and rulership. The second partition was that of the warrior, and the third partition that was described by George was that of the provider. In other words, the farmers and the craftspeople of the community. And the three divisions he actually gives us is that of sovereignty, military, and productivity. But the theory goes much further. It doesn't just say that society was divided into three. It actually says that amongst these three divisions, their spiritual beliefs and the gods that represented each partition were different. The first group, the group of sovereignty, is further split into two sub-roles, and the first role is the role of law and order, and they call it the juridical group. And so the responsibilities at this level is to ensure that there are just laws and people are adhering to the law and metering out justice when needed to. The second role was that of the domain of the spiritual. And so this role was responsible for looking after the spiritual well-being of the tribe. And it was associated with telling the future and philosophy and wisdom. And so that was the second role within the first group of sovereignty. So although this theory is applicable to Celtic culture, and we have evidence of this all through Celtic culture, where we have triple gods and triple-headed demons and rhymes in triplicate, and 3 is a sacred number, and we have sky, earth and sea as being the 3 sacred domains. So there's no doubt that this triplicity applies to Celtic culture. I've seen very little in regards to the TriFunctionality and the Celtic gods or the god names. I mean, I was ideally looking to see some Celtic god names applied to each of the 3 functions. And I did find one article. And this article does deal with the Celtic gods. The only problem is, I'm not sure if I agree completely with the gods that he's chosen in this article. So what we'll do, we'll go through and I'll discuss the gods that he's chosen, and then I'll talk about why I agree or disagree with that particular selection. So for the first function, the gods that were chosen, and this function is the law, so the legal part of it, and for that he's chosen, for the legal part of it he's chosen Nordens. And for the second part of this function, that of the religious, spiritual aspect, he's chosen Lu. Now, I'm okay with Lu, and if we look at the Norse mythology, then we see for the Norse mythology that Odin and Tu were chosen, and Odin aligns well with Lu. So the only reason I can see why Nuth has been chosen for this role to replace 2 of the Norse mythology is that 2 was the German god or Germanic god with only 1 arm, and Nuth was Nordens in Welsh mythology became Nuth Chloreriant, Nuth of the silver arm. And from what I can see, that seems to be the only thing linking Nuth to this role of lawgiver within the first function. So, until I've seen more, and I have looked at news quite extensively, and I really see nothing there that says he would have been a lawgiver. It is possible that Lugh fulfilled both roles within the Celtic world, or there is another god, Beli, who is said to have been the father of all the Celtic gods. And perhaps Beli would have been a better fit. Right now, the jury's out on Nordens being the lawgiver, in my books. Now for the second function, and that's the function of the warrior, or the military function. We've been given Tyrannus. Now, the warrior function and the military function, in Roman terms, would be Mars. Now, Tyrannus is equated with Jupiter, and Tyrannus is the thunderer. And perhaps I would have thought Tyrannus as Jupiter would have been a better fit for the law god in the first function, and for the second function, the warrior, I would have thought we would have gone with Tardis, who was the protector of the tribe. And now for the third function. We've been given Tardis. Now, Tardis, we know, meant protector of the tribe. Now, as I've already said, I would have thought that fits far better in with the second function, that of the military class, than that of the god of the farmers and the craftsmen. And in fact, given what I've seen in the past, I would say Isis maybe could fulfill that role, as we see iconography as Isis as the woodcutter. But there's also the point that was made by Professor Rubikill, who said he believed Lugh to be a triune god, meaning he encompassed Tyrannus, Tardis, and Isis. Maybe it's those three gods that are actually the gods that fulfill the various functions. So in that case, I would see Isis, whose name literally translates to the Lord, as being the spiritual god. And I would see Tardis as being the warrior god, and Tyrannus, the god of the skies, the thunderer. He would have been the people's god, the god looking after the fields and the crops. So the truth is, we can only speculate at exactly which gods should take which role. The only thing we know for sure is that the Trinity is seen all the way through Celtic culture. And this is apparent not just in the social functionality and the social grouping of the Celts, but also through the use of pan-Celtic gods, tribal gods, and local spirit genii. Now that I've explained the theory of trifunctionality, it's time to come back to that problem I said I had with the wheel of the year, and whether trifunctionality can be used to solve a little problem there. Now if we look at the wheel of the year, and I'll start with Beltane. Now Beltane was named in honour of the god Beli or Belenos. And Beltane is on the 1st of May. And it takes us right through to the 1st of August, which then is the festival of Lunaza. And Lunaza was named in honour of Lu. And then there's another festival, Mabon. And Mabon is named in honour of Maponus. So all of these gods are represented on the wheel of the year, and at different times of the year. And I've always thought that they are representative of the sun god at different times of the year. I know Beli's a sun god. He was equated with Apollo. And I know that Lu at one time was thought to be a sun god. And Mabon, he is also a sun god, and his name means the divine youth. So why do we have 3 gods represented on the wheel of the year? Because the Celts did everything in 3s. 3 was a sacred number. And this brings us back to trifunctionality again. So Lu takes over on the 1st of August. And for me, he goes right through until the rebirth of the sun god, which is at the winter solstice. So around about the 21st or the 22nd of December. And then it just seems obvious to me that this is now the time of the divine youth, Mabon. And so I see Mabon taking over from December through to May. I see Beli as being the god of May, June and July, the god of the summer. And Lu is the god of the autumn. So that fits in really well for me. We see again this trifunctionality throughout the seasons. And we see the 3 sun gods represented at different times of the year. And so it all seems to fit. And it's something that has been puzzling me for a while. How were these three sun gods related on the wheel of the year? And now it all seems to fit together. So, anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think this trifunctionality and the gods of the wheel of the year, do you have any ideas? Just leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I read all comments, so it would be appreciated. So that's it for this one. And I'll see you again very soon.